Well, good afternoon, everybody, and thank you so much for joining us for this LA County Library virtual event. My name is Jose, and I'm a librarian here at LA County Library. I want to welcome everybody to today's event, Native Plants and Wildlife of California. What inspired this program, which is our California State Parks Pass. Our California State Park Pass gives you access to over 200 state parks. So once again, this is state parks. This does not unfortunately include Yosemite or Death Valley, which are national parks. But you do have access to some of the most beautiful state parks across the state of California. This pass you could check out for 2 weeks, and during those 2 weeks, you can plan a road trip and visit parks up and down the state of California. To know what parks are eligible, you'll go onto this page that I am in here, and from here you go to participating and not participating parks. And you can see here the long list of parks that are available divided by county, including the parks available here in LA County. And as you can see, we currently have 596 park passes available through our 86 LA County Library. So I encourage you, after we're done with this presentation, with this amazing webinar, and you learn all about our beautiful fauna and animals, go out, check out one of those passes, take a road trip, and check out one of our state parks. And so with that, it is my pleasure to present our presenter today, who is the founder and head of Naturalist for You, if I'm not mistaken, Mr. Barefoot Joel. Barefoot, over to you. Thank you.
Thank you, Jose. I'm going to jump right into our presentation. So here we go. All right, perfect. Howdy, folks. Barefoot Joel with Naturalist for You, and I want to welcome you to our California Native Plants and Wildlife presentation, brought to you by Los Angeles County Library and the California State Parks Passes program. This is an exciting opportunity for you to check out a Parks Pass at your local library that'll give you access to 10 different state parks in LA County and 7 different state parks in Orange County. These include Malibu Creek State Park, Topanga State Park, Kenneth Hahn State Recreational Area, you have Crystal Cove State Park, you have Bolsa Chica, you have even Chino Hill State Park. So many different state parks that all feature an incredible amount of biological diversity. And we're going to talk about the biodiversity featured in these state parks right now. So we're here in Chino Hill State Park, one of the many glorious parks you can visit with your Parks Pass. And you can see behind me, this landscape is dominated by shrubs. Some large evergreen shrubs and then some smaller shrubs that could even go drought deciduous, which means they drop their leaves in the late summer or fall. And one in particular, this gray-green one that looks very hairy, for lack of a better way of describing. This gray-green one is very aromatic. It has an incredible smell, probably one of the greatest fragrances, or most popular, I should say, that anybody can encounter along any given trail in southern coastal California. This shrub is the superstar and represents a whole community of shrubs that we want to pay attention to and would consider incorporating into your home landscape. So we're looking at this shrubland dominated community. And so there are many different plants, including the one I just mentioned, in this community. But is anybody actually familiar with this community that supports so many different wildlife species? Well, it's adapted for our coast. And so anytime the humidity is up coming from our ocean, that all these different plants are adapted to take advantage of that coastal fog, or what we call the marine layer. And even if it's not even raining, they can drip that humidity from the air to their root system. So we call this community coastal. And then a lot of the plants in this community, they have a smell, a fragrance to them, some of which are known as sage. And so we include sage in this plant community name. And then finally, a lot of these shrubs, especially when they drop their leaves, they can be somewhat scrubby. So you can imagine a scrub brush for lack of a better way of describing. So in the community itself, we include the word scrub. So when you put these three words together, and you could all say it with me at home, we have coastal sage scrub. One more time, coastal sage scrub. And that is the community that all these plants live in. Just like we live in a community with different neighborhood names or city names, plants and animals live in communities as well. So we are in the coastal sage scrub plant community, and we're going to jump right into the superstar of that community right now. So this shrub right here, this gray-green shrub that occurs in our in our state parks and national parks, and a lot of our parks in this area, but especially state parks. It is very adapted for drought, and it smells incredible. And in fact, some people have decided to use it in soaps because the fragrance is so amazing. So you can see I'm smelling it right now. And let's see here. So we're going to look a little bit closer at this plant right now. If you can see, the leaves are very unique. They can have anywhere from 2 to 4 thread-like lobes. All right, so these tiny little leaves have very little surface area. So again, very adapted for drought conditions. And then you can see they're almost silvery. The cool gray color actually allows the plant to reflect light. So again, it's conserving water. So very adapted for our region. Now, the amazing thing about this plant, it definitely supports a lot of wildlife, but it also supports us. And if you think about the local tribe for this area, the Tongva tribe, who has lived here for thousands of years, the Tongva have practiced sort of a traditional way of interacting with the plants. They have a relationship that is very unique. In fact, they even consider the plants their family members. And these family members provide gifts, including medicine. And one of the medicinal opportunities is you can consume this plant by making a decoction or a tea. And that in turn is going to allow you to, well, if you're a woman, deal with menstrual cramp pain. And if you're going through menopause, it helps with menopause. So what an amazing gift that this plant offers. Now, this is a picture of Raphael Solaris. He's a Chumash individual demonstrating some traditional life ways here. In fact, hunting in a traditional regalia. And say he goes on a hunting trip and he doesn't want to be noticed by the deer or whatever he is hunting. You can actually mask your scent by using the leaves of this plant and covering all over yourself. So another nice use, right? We also have, let's see here, just making sure you can all hear me. Oh, I see there's some questions already in here about what plant is this. So we're not going to talk about what this plant is right away because we're getting to know the plant. We're cultivating a relationship with the plant right now, and we're learning about its uses and how it benefits both us and wildlife. And then we're going to find the name. So here we go. The next thing that this would be used for is, say you wanted to purge yourself of toxins and cure yourself of a certain illness. You could actually use this plant in a sweat house. And let's see, here's the final one. So another use for this plant is you could actually line your food storage area in the center of your village. And because this smell is so potent, it'll tell all the animals around to stay away from this particular spot. So you actually can protect your food storage. It could be acorns, it could be something else. You can protect these by masking the scent of your food with the leaves of this plant. Now, it is such an attractive smell to us, but if you were to taste the plant, you would understand why the animals aren't interested in it. It has a very bitter flavor. So that is key in order to protect your food storage in the center of your village. So getting to the gifts that it provides to other animals, we have this unique bird right here that's small, about the size of a ping pong ball, and it's very adorable. It gleans insects off of this plant. It actually nests in this plant, spends a lot of its life in this community of plants, and it sounds like a buzzy kitten. So it's It's a really interesting sound. A lot of people, when they hike the trails in state parks, they might notice this sound and this little bird flitting around. This bird, the coastal California gnatcatcher, is actually a threatened species, which means that it's close to being endangered. And so there's a lot of concern about this bird. And so state parks especially are a wonderful place that have been set aside with the plants that this bird needs to survive. And so we're very grateful to have these state parks available to preserve the habitat for this coastal California gnatcatcher. Now, thinking about that, our urban areas also, where we live, used to feature these plants. And so there's a lot of opportunities to actually incorporate these plants into your home landscape in order to support these wildlife. So if you ever go out exploring at one of these state parks using our state park pass, the cool thing is you can actually see how these animals interact with the plants and how you could potentially increase their habitat in your own home landscape. So now that we know about the gnatcatcher and we know about all these medicinal gifts, what is the plant? I know you've all been begging to know about that. The plant is, uh-oh. Oh, I lost it. Somehow I got a glitch in I'm going to tell you the plant name anyway. So the plant is named sagebrush. Sorry about that, little glitch on the slide. But in any case, it's called California sagebrush. So hopefully everybody can hear me when I say that. And California sagebrush in Tongva language is called Horuvar. That's Horuu. The UU is where the emphasis is, and then VAR, Horuvar. So now we know how to speak the language of the Tongva in relation to the plants, and we're going to move on to another plant. So this next one here, this one is a very unique plant. You can see that it has stacked flower clusters. So we're jumping in on this, and these are featured prominently with the sagebrush. As we move along, this one is very aromatic as well. It's one of my favorite smells in addition to the sagebrush. And you can see it has opposite leaves. And you can see it has square stems. Well, you could sort of see it in the photo, but it actually has four-sided stems. Now, this plant is actually really important habitat for native bees. So you can see I have a photo here of a bumblebee, and then you can also see it also supports hummingbirds, which is pretty incredible. A lot of people talk about putting feeders in their yard in order to attract the birds, but if you actually incorporate native plants like the ones that you could see in state parks, you'll see that the hummingbirds will take advantage of these flowering plants throughout the year, which is pretty amazing. And you don't have to replace any sort of sugar water or anything like that. They just take advantage, and no maintenance to you, right? I mean, this plant is drought tolerant as well, just like the sagebrush. And I'm sure you're wondering what it is, but I just want to share this video before. You can see a bumblebee taking full advantage, doing the rounds on each flower, which is so exciting. And we have over 1,000 different species of native bees in California, almost close to 2,000. And all of these native plants that we're talking about today, they support these bees, which is pretty amazing. So what is this plant? Well, it's black sage, Salvia mellifera. And black sage is also wonderful for human consumption. You can actually season food with this plant. You put it in soups. You could season meats, and it's actually a medicinal plant as well. So you can take the leaves and you could make a tea out of them, and it's an expectorant, which means that it can pull up mucus from your lungs. So it's a very helpful plant in regards to, everybody's going through all these respiratory issues right now, getting colds and COVID and everything. And so this is your plant right here. It's going to support you in helping you heal by pulling all that mucus out. And this plant is actually in the mint family. So it has similar medicinal properties to mint. So we got the black sage. Moving onward into our plant world. This one here, we're now at Crystal Cove State Park, one of my favorite state parks that you can visit with your pass. And this is a unique plant. It has these little pom-pom looking flowers all over it. And I was looking carefully at this plant and I noticed that there was a very unique larva crawling around on the plant, and it's the larval form of a butterfly. Here it is up close, and you can see this is a western tussock moth, and it's feeding on the leaves of this plant. It'll also feed on deer broom, another native plant, and I've seen it on willows. But this is actually going to turn into an adult moth. The male has wings. The female does her wings aren't developed, and so but once they are able to mate, the female makes a cocoon, and it's pretty incredible the whole process here. But basically, yeah, you got to check them out. Go to the state park, check out these tussock moths. They're pretty amazing to look at, and yeah, they beg you for you to pet them. They almost look like little, I don't know, how would you describe them? Little fuzzy things. Anyway, moving on. So this plant has very unique features. These pom-pom looking flowers are attached to these branching secondary stems. We call those umbels. And not all shrubs are able to bloom in this way. So this plant is unique in that respect. And this plant has a name that relates to a male deer. And the other part of its name relates to a very common cereal grain that we make into bread. If you can think about that, you could probably figure it out. But before we actually tell you what it is, I want to tell you some other beneficiaries of this plant. If you plant one of these in your home garden, it'll attract all these special butterflies, all these unique ones that you wouldn't get otherwise. Uh, this is one that a dusky wing right here, a mournful dusky wing, and then we also have metal mark, bear's metal mark. You can see they're all taking advantage of the buckwheat. You have a gray hair streak right here as well, and then you have some blues as well, San Bernardino blues. So all of these butterflies are taking advantage of this one plant, which is pretty incredible. And that this is just a very partial list. There's many more species of butterflies that can take advantage of this plant. So it's really another superstar within the coastal sagebrush plant community. And what is this plant? It is known as California buckwheat. So there you go. We got California buckwheat, and it's just going to attract bees and butterflies and moths and beetles and just all sorts of pollinators. So it's a perfect one for the home garden. Completely drought tolerant, by the way. So we're jumping to a larger evergreen shrub here, and this one you can see the leaves are somewhat shiny. This one produced well, you can see the leaves up close now. You can see they're very serrated, like a knife edge. And if you were to take one of these leaves and crush it in your hand and smell, it actually smells a little bit like almonds and cherries, which is pretty amazing. And it's actually related to both of those plants. And you can make a tea out of this leaf that actually smells and even tastes a little bit like almonds and cherries. And it helps with stomach ailments. And by the way, buckwheat helps with stomach ailments too. So we're getting all sorts of benefits here from the plants. Anyway, this one produces red berries at Christmas time. And so a lot of people, when they see this large evergreen shrub in the landscape at any of our local state parks, they're like, "Huh, that looks a lot like holly," especially since it's fruiting at Christmas time. And some people actually call it Christmas berry or holly berry. But its actual name is an Ohlone word. So there's a tribe up north. They're the ones that named this, and it's stuck. It's a two-syllable word, starts with a T. But before I tell you what it is, I want to tell you this bird right here migrates here around the fall and winter and devours these berries when they're fully ripe. So this shrub is actually a great place to see migratory birds. This one is actually called a cedar waxwing. And cedar waxwing, they'll come in these big flocks and start devouring all these red berries. But what's cool about the cedar waxwing is we've learned that they can see color, and they're only going to eat the reddest berries because the ones that are green have cyanide in them. And they're not going to eat the cyanide laden berries. They're going to wait until they get fully ripe, and then the cyanide is almost a non-existent. If it exists at all, it's in a trace amount, and then they can consume it. But then, really late in the season, here's the funny part: these cedar waxwings, they'll continue to consume the berries as they've fermented. And so on occasion, you might actually run across drunk cedar waxwings. So look out for that coming up in maybe next January after Christmas time. So what are they feeding on? Now, here's the name of the shrub that they're enjoying. It's called Toyon. And Toyon sounds, well, if you think about it, if you break it apart, it's toy and on. And kids get toys at Christmas time. And most of them, they require you to turn them from off to on these days. And that's when the red berries are ready at Christmas time. So if that helps you to remember toy on, I hope it does. So we're moving on to another plant here. All right. This one's easy. I'm sure all of you recognize this. You don't want to jump into this one, obviously, because of all the spines on it. But this is a special kind of cactus in particular. And if you've never had cactus before, you can actually consume it. The young stems, let's get into that. We're looking at the cactus here. Let's move forward. Oh, I'll jump back here. We'll just stare at this for a little bit. So these young stems, I don't know if you know the name of them in Espanol. They're called nopales, right? And then occasionally you get the fruit, by the end of summer and the fall, and which are very tasty, the tunas. But this is an incredible plant for food, obviously. But there's a bird. We'll move forward. There's the bird. All right, this bird right here, you can see it has a stripe on the eye, speckles on the back, a long sort of semi-curved beak that's pointy. This bird gleans insects off of this cactus, and it makes its nest in the cactus, and it hides from predators in the cactus. So this is its home, it's its fortress, it's its food source. It's just the perfect place for this bird. And this bird actually is a species of special concern. So this bird actually needs mature cactus stands like this to survive. Once it loses the cactus, the bird disappears. So just like the gnatcatcher that we saw earlier, relying on sagebrush and other associated plants, this coastal cactus wren really, really heavily relies on this plant for its survival. So you appreciate cactus, you enjoy eating nopales, you enjoy eating the tunas. This is a plant you could plant, a cactus you could plant in your garden. And then you're also, once it matures, it's going to support a rare species of bird, which is pretty awesome. So we're moving forward here. You can see the newer spines coming out, and everything. So that's what you would strip off if you were harvesting it yourself. The great thing about this cactus too, if you were to grow it in your garden, you could actually clone it. One little stem you could just poke in the ground, and it'll start rooting after a few weeks. So it's an easy one to grow in the home garden. All right, moving onward, we have another shrub here. This one I really enjoy. Let's see what happens here. I'm gonna move in there. What am I doing? So this large evergreen shrub has these drupes or these fruit that you can suck on, and they taste very sour, which is addictive if you like sour things. And so the name of this shrub, it relates to that. You can see I'm sticking another one in my mouth here. And here's the drupes or the fruit up close and the leaf. So what happens is the fruit gets this white frosting all over it, and but it's not sweet at all. Don't get me wrong. Completely sour. You could suck that off, and then you just spit out the fruit after you've sucked off all the sour goodness. And it's just pretty amazing. And you could even collect all of those drupes, put them in a beverage container with water, and then add some sugar. And then you can imagine what sort of beverage you have with sweetener and the sourness. You have, whoops, jump forward there. You have something that, like, well, if you think about what do kids sell on street corners in the summertime? You know what I'm talking about. Starts with an L. We're talking about lemonade. So this tastes, you can make your own lemonade basically from this shrub. But we're not the only ones who benefit, of course. I got a little ahead of myself here. We have a fur, large round ears, large eyes, and a long fuzzy tail. This is not to be confused with the rats that you find maybe in some urban areas that might sneak into your house. This is a special kind of rat, the big-eared wood rat, that actually will appreciate nesting under a lemonade berry. And when a wood rat makes its nest, you can see it's this huge pile of twigs, and there's different entrances inside. And this becomes home not just for a wood rat, but it becomes a home for a whole bunch of other animals, including toads and salamanders and birds. They'll go in there, rabbits. I mean, it's like a whole village in one structure. So it's pretty amazing how you plant a lemonade berry, and then you get all these other critters that are relying on that one space for their survival. So what is this plant? Well, that's an easy one. It's called lemonade berry. There you go. So one of my favorites, for sure, flavor wise, can't go wrong there. It's like, what do they call them? Warheads. It's a lot like that. All right. So we're moving on here, and we have another interesting plant that this one, you could probably figure out what this is. This plant right here, well, it's very attractive to a lot of pollinators. Here, we're going to look at the leaf. There we go. And then we're looking at the flower up close. This is the cool thing about this particular flower. So this flower actually is many flowers. I don't know if you can tell, but when it's fully in bloom, and in the center you can see it's not all in bloom yet, but each one of those little bumps there is a little flower. So you have all these flowers in the center called disc flowers, and then when you look around the petals, you can see those are all ray flowers. Just like the sun has a disc and it has rays extending out from it. So and this plant obviously is named for the sun. So we got bush sunflower right here. And we have the Tongva name for that as well. So there we go. Pachar, right? Pretty awesome. All right. Next shrub. This one's pretty huge. And this shrub is, well, it's an evergreen as well. This one is not frost tolerant. So you find it in our valleys and foothills. But as you go up in elevation, it disappears. So you're going to find it at like Kenneth Hahn State Recreational Area. You're going to find it at Malibu Creek State Park. You're going to find it at Crystal Cove, but not way up in the San Gabriel Mountains. And so farmers actually use this shrub as a frost indicator for when they were planting citrus back in the day. So they knew that citrus couldn't handle the frost, and so they used this shrub as in indicators like, oh, we can't plant our citrus there. It gets too many cold snaps at night. You look closely at it, and the leaves are folded, which is interesting. So it reminds me of a taco. And so I do have a story about this plant. This is a way to help you remember the name. But basically, I don't know if you remember, a long time ago, this lady went into a very famous fast food restaurant that is known for its golden arches. You guessed it, McDonald's. And this lady, she spilled hot coffee on herself, and she ended up doing what to McDonald's? She sued McDonald's, right? And this plant is a sumac. So, but now she goes to another famous fast food restaurant that is known for its tacos. She goes to Taco Bell. And what is her name? Her name is Laurel. So Laurel, she goes to Taco Bell instead of McDonald's because she's sued. Anyway, long story short, and here's the droops for it right here. I'm going to skip ahead. But long story short, this plant, you've probably figured out the name. It's I'll jump ahead here. It's called Laurel sumac. All right, Laurel sumac. So hopefully you can remember that story. It's an easy way to remember. But jumping back here, we have a bird that really appreciates this laurel sumac. This bird is another migratory bird, just like the cedar waxwing. And this bird will actually come in the fall and winter in huge flocks, just like the cedar waxwing does. And it loves eating the droops, which you can see in this photo, they're all gone or dried up because the yellow-rumped warblers have eaten most of them. So they get real busy on this plant in the wintertime. And then by the springtime, they all disappear. No more yellow-rumped warblers. They all go back up north, just like the cedar waxwings. So again, to support migratory birds, I think is a pretty incredible thing. If you go to these local state parks, you get to see migration in action. So, which is a pretty exciting endeavor. So, laurel sumac. All right. So the coastal sage scrub plant community, we've met many members of the community right now. We have sagebrush or horuvar, we have black sage, we have laurel sumac, we have lemonade berry, all of these incredible plants that are supporting all this cool wildlife. For example, you get to see one of these or maybe a whole covey of these every now and again as you're navigating through this coastal sage scrub environment. I'm guessing a lot of people know what this bird is, but just in case you didn't, it's our state bird. And I figured most of you got it, the California quail. This is a male California quail. And if you've never heard a California quail before, when you're walking the trail, just listen for somebody going, ha ha ha, ha ha ha, which almost sounds like Chicago, Chicago. So they're a pretty cool bird to see. And if you're lucky, you'll see their offspring, which are so tiny, waddling around on the ground sometimes. That's one of my favorite birds to look forward to here. This is a male with his full regalia. So, but it doesn't stop there. You don't not only get to see your state bird, you might get to see this amazing bird that is known from Warner Brothers cartoons. And who's chasing this one around? Wile E. Coyote, of course, right? So this bird right here, we all know what it's called, right? This is the greater roadrunner, and this roadrunner is a very fascinating bird. And the reason it's unique, one of the reasons is if you look at its feet, it actually has X feet, so 2 toes in front and 2 toes in back. And when it runs around, it's navigating, it's getting lizards and snakes, even sometimes mice, all sorts of small things that it'll just grab them. But it doesn't honk like the cartoon. If you've seen the Warner Brothers cartoons, it doesn't go meep meep. It actually sounds very different. It sounds sort of like a sad dog. So when you're walking the trails, if you're lucky enough to hear one, it goes ooh 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 ooh. That's how it sounds. And it's almost a gentle coo sound. And this bird is actually related to cuckoos. So we have our largest cuckoo that you get to see, but they are heavily reliant on this plant community. So you don't have any coastal sage scrub, you're not going to see any roadrunners, you're not going to see any quail. So it's really exciting when we explore our state parks to see this bird. Then there's this one. Oh my gosh. It looks like an incredible dinosaur, right? Um, a lot of people haven't seen this lizard. It probably can fit in the palm of your hand, and it is called the horned lizard. A lot of people call them horny toads. They're not really a toad. But you have a chance, believe it or not, of seeing one of these ancient prehistoric looking creatures navigating around. And they rely almost exclusively on those giant red ants that you might see on a path. And these ants actually, these giant red ants or giant black ones, they actually gather all the seeds from the coastal sage scrub, and then they'll bring them back to their nest. And you can always find a horned lizard near an harvester ant nest because they'll be just waiting in the sand, licking up all those ants as the ants go by. So horned lizard, I always look forward to seeing those. One of the special representatives there. Next, we have this unique lizard here, and you can see it has an orange throat. So this particular lizard, and if you look at its tail, it's quite long. It's what Indiana Jones would use in rare occasions in the films. It's called a whip tail, an orange-throated whip tail. These lizards, just like the horned lizard, rely on the coastal sage scrub community, and they run so fast. And I've actually seen them launch themselves off of little ramps on the edge of the road, those little embankments, just shoot off of the edge into the shrubbery. It's pretty incredible how they can run around. So that's our orange-throated whiptail there. But then you get crazy looking things like this, that are also relying on. Remember that Toyon we talked about earlier? This actually relies on the Toyon for its survival. This moth, which almost looks like a butterfly. It's pretty incredible. So it's hard to believe so many different species, with different colors and textures, are all relying on one plant community for their survival. Oh, and then of course this most adorable one here you can see is this one hops around at night, and it's actually related. They named it after something that hops around in Australia. We're talking about a kangaroo rat. So these also rely on the coastal sage scrub plant community. Like I said, nocturnal, so quite adorable. And if you're lucky, you'll get to see one, but those chances are slim. You just got to be really patient and investigate, and maybe you'll score one early in the morning or at a sunset. Who knows? But it's crazy how many different species of animals are here. I mean, the diversity of animals in the coastal sage scrub plant community is through the roof. And so, I can't reiterate that enough. And if you get one of these parks passes, and wander to these state parks, in fact, like I got Malibu Creek State Park on the right. I got Saddleback Butte State Park. I got Kenneth Hahn. I mean, there's so many different places that you can explore. And you got the Antelope Valley Poppy Reserve. You got Crystal Cove. Yeah, it's just amazing how many places, Topanga State Park, that you can visit and firsthand experience these amazing plants and learn about their uses, their gifts that they provide, and also how they support all these really cool animals that maybe, hopefully, you have a chance of seeing. And I just want to go over the list really quickly with you. I mean, Antelope Valley, California Poppy Reserve, Kenneth Hahn, Leo Carrillo, Los Angeles State Historic Park, Malibu Creek, Malibu Lagoon, Rio de Los Angeles State Historic Park, or State Recreation Area, sorry. Robert H. Meyer Memorial State Beach, Saddleback Butte State Park, Topanga State Park, Verdugo Mountains Park property. I mean, it's crazy. And then you could jump over to Orange County, and we're only looking at 2 counties here. So that's pretty amazing in itself. You got Bolsa Chica, you got Chino Hills, Crystal Cove, Doheny, Huntington, San Clemente, San Onofre. But then you could go to other counties all throughout the state, and it's just mind-boggling, all the state parks that you can explore in order to learn about all these amazing wildlife friends that we all share this world with, right? But I'm with Naturalist for you, and these are all our other naturalists that guide walks. That's what we do. We like to take people out on the trails in state parks, in county parks, city parks, any natural area throughout Southern California. And we're just excited about everything that we see and hear and smell. And we're using all of our senses in order to fully experience these places. And I hope I can get you on one of our walks in the future, and we can appreciate all of this wildlife and plants together. And I mean, there's so much more to talk about and to appreciate. So, and our organization, we've 17 years old now. We're a nonprofit, and so we do this for the public benefit. And so hopefully you can join us on one of these excursions. And we also take requests. So, and you can find us online, Naturalist for You. You can find us on Instagram, and we have a website. We have even a TikTok, if you can believe it. So there you go. I think we're right on schedule. I see there's a lot of Q&A chats, so I figure we can start answering questions now if that works.
Yeah, fantastic. Thank you so much, Joel, for that amazing presentation and for, I mean, touching the iceberg, right, of our plants and our, animals and how they both coexist and how we should coexist with them. So I want to thank you so much for all that information. I'm sure you're seeing all the love coming through in the emojis. But we do have a number of questions, and we'll try to
Yeah.
get to as many as possible. The first one was, which I found kind of funny, that the first California sagebrush that you showed, is that
Yes.
also commonly known as cowboy cologne?
Yes. You got it right. So and for some reason I lost that slide. I think I might have accidentally erased it. But anyway, jumping over to the sagebrush there. Um, its formal name is California sagebrush. It's called cowboy cologne. It's called cowgirl perfume. That's another name for it as well. And Horuvar is the Tongva name. That's Horuuvar. And I know I don't know how many of you are into the Tongva language, have learned about the Tongva people of Los Angeles Basin and Northern Orange County, but the Tongva tribe, the language has been reconstructed with the help of Tongva descendants and linguists. And there's actually a Tongva language Facebook page if anybody's interested. So you could learn. We don't have all the plant names in Tongva language. Some nobody ever wrote down, unfortunately. But in any case, you can learn some of the native plants and by visiting that Facebook page as well. So anyway, Horuvar or Cowboy Cologne, your choice.
Thank you so much. And sticking with the California sagebrush,
Yeah.
would that protect like someone's home garden from, nasty critters or them eating other plants? Because you did mention they don't like the taste of it.
Yeah, yeah. So I'll give you an example of some of the animals that, if this was in abundance in your home landscape, these animals would not be able to consume it. They're not really interested in it, and those animals include ground squirrels, rabbits, and so two the animals that people have a lot of challenges with their in their home gardens. This sagebrush is not going to be consumed by them, and if you were to actually take the leaves of the sagebrush and sort of hide or actually take the multiple plants and grow them around plants that you're concerned that other animals might eat, you might actually deceive the animals into thinking that there's only sagebrush there. So it's sort of a trick that you can use. And definitely the leaves, if you're lining food storage areas or anything you want to mask the scent, you just use a whole ton of these leaves, and it's going to basically tell all the other animals, oh, this is just a bitter tasting thing I don't want to waste my time with. So it's a great deterrent in that respect.
And in that same vein, are any of the wild sages actually poisonous?
Yeah, that's so sagebrush, by the way, is not actually a true sage, even though it has sage in the name. It's related to sunflowers, and but it's adapted with chemicals inside that sage also have, called terpenes. And those terpenes, if you were to consume them, they're bitter tasting, but you could derive a lot of medicinal benefit from them. So they're not going to be poisonous per se if you consume them in appropriate quantities. And but as with any medicine, you can overconsume, and then you do risk some negative reactions. So you don't want to eat too much or consume too much sagebrush. You don't want to consume too much of the black sage over here. You don't want to consume that either. Too much of it, I should say. You can consume it, but in smaller quantities. If you're including it in food, in the case of the black sage, Yeah, I would recommend, spacing it out. You have it for a meal one time, but then you have another type of food another day. You know what I mean? So as much as these taste amazing, sometimes certain plants, you don't want to overconsume anything, right? You don't even want to overconsume cherries from the store, right? So just in moderation.
So, and a lot of people are asking, if I go to the state park, can I snip a little bit of the plants and take home
Ah,
with me? Can you talk a little bit about
yes.
what's happening with actual sage, with white sage, and
Yeah.
the depletion of that?
So when you're in a state park, especially, and other equivalent parks where they're setting aside natural areas for the benefit of wildlife and human recreation, they have very strict guidelines. You're not supposed to collect from those landscapes unless you have permission. But um, if you plant these in your home landscape, which we encourage you to do, you're increasing habitat for the wildlife, and then you can pick all you want. And when it comes to white sage and even black sage and sagebrush, these are some of the plants that are being over harvested in our wildlands, not just state parks, but in national forests and city and county parks as well, and then sold online throughout the world globally. And unfortunately, because of that over harvesting, that exploitation, some of these plants are declining uh, faster than they can reproduce. So that's a big concern, and especially from an indigenous perspective as well. As these things get sold around the world, there's cultural appropriation happening where ceremonies are being conducted out of context in regions where the plant never existed before. So there's actually a great documentary called "Saging the World" that I would encourage people to look to watch. You can watch it for free. I believe it's available online, but it talks about white sage in particular and how it's being sold like on Etsy and Amazon in sage bundles and everything. But the people who are harvesting it sometimes aren't getting permission. They might be taking too much, and then the plants aren't able to reproduce. They might even be uprooting the whole plant, and that's a real concern for land managers, um, for indigenous folks, for everyone. So that's one of the plants for sure. If you want to benefit from the medicine from that plant or the food value from a plant like that, there's native plant nurseries. Theodore Payne is a great native plant nursery. They sell their plants. You can also go to Tree of Life Nursery. That's another huge native plant nursery. There's the California Botanic Garden. All of these places sell native plants. You could also get seed from SNS Seed. That is in Carpinteria. They sell native collected seeds. So all those are options. That way we don't overharvest what, these remaining places, and we actually increase the amount of these plants for everyone's benefit.
Fantastic. Actually, that was my next question. How can people ethically and get these plants? So thank you so much for bringing that up again.
Yeah,
So I do see a couple people were really digging the photos. They said they were
cool.
beautifully taken, and I assume you took most, if not all of them.
I A lot of them. Some of them, I don't have great photos personally, so I wish I did. Like the gnat catcher here, somebody else gets credit for that. I don't even know who I got it from. Autobahn. But in any case, a lot of the plant photos are mine. I got that bumblebee photo, which was I was excited about, but I didn't get the hummingbird photo. I was looking frantically. I do have a video of a hummingbird doing this very thing, but for the life of me, I couldn't find it. So, but our group, Naturalist for You, we're always encouraging everyone to collect photos and videos when they're visiting state parks or other natural areas and sharing that, tagging us on Instagram and everything, and also using a really great app called iNaturalist. Which I encourage you to use when you visit a state. If you get the pass, go to a state park and you see a cool animal or plant, take a photo of it, upload it to iNaturalist, and then it becomes a field guide for everybody else who visits that park. So everybody can identify things on the trail. You don't even need me. But hey, if you want us to come along and guide you, we'll do that too. But this is a great way to help everybody identify plants and animals. So remember that iNaturalist. And the photos on there are incredible.
That's a great sourced app that I do enjoy using when I'm out and about. People are asking for the name of that documentary again.
Saging the world.
Aging the world.
Yeah.
And I'm seeing a question here about
Yeah.
asking how can people find uh, about what's blooming right now? And I'll actually answer that question. I'll drop it in the chat here. You spoke about the Theodore Payne Foundation,
Yeah.
and they actually have a wildflower hotline that they update every Friday, I believe. And it lets you know what are like the hot spots for blooming flowers, especially right now when we have a lot of those super blooms going on and some really beautiful plans coming up. So I just dropped that in the chat. So you could call up that number, and every Friday evening, I believe they update it with the latest blooms and the best places to go see flowers. So and I believe they do it March through June.
Yeah. Now, and keep in mind, last year was a mind-blowing super bloom year in a lot of places. This year, because of the consistent rain, people assumed that we would have another major super bloom everywhere. Certain places definitely did. Anza Borrego State Park. I encourage you to go there as soon as possible. That's one of those places. But other places did not have the super bloom. Like we didn't get the huge poppy displays this year because it was gloomy too much. And then we also had some winds early on in the season that will shred a lot of the flowers. So just because we get a lot of rain doesn't mean we always get huge displays. That being said, we're getting a lot of growth this year. The wildlife are really active in the spring, and the flowers that we do have, even if they're not as many, we're still getting really great diversity of flowers, and including a lot of rare ones like Mariposa lilies and rare Dudleas and things like that. So definitely check with Theodore Payne. Some state parks actually have their own flower cams, like the Antelope Valley has their own flower cam for their state park or their state reserve, so you can check on that as well.
And that just so everybody know, the name of that park again is Anza Borrego, and I believe
Yes,
I want to say it's in Riverside County.
San
Um,
Diego County.
and
Yeah,
And it is that one actually is part of the California State Park Pass, so you could use the pass to visit Anza Borrego. But yeah, it's a huge. I think it might border a number of counties, so definitely check that one out.
probably Imperial County as well. Yeah,
Yeah, I believe
maybe
so.
does it touch Riverside too? I mean, that
I
place is
believe it
it's
does.
hundreds of thousands of acres.
Yeah,
So
it's a massive one of our biggest state parks.
yeah,
So I'm going to see what we else we have here. So we got the moth question already down here. Perfect. So I'm seeing a lot of questions here actually about our park pass and how to acquire that. So once again, the park pass is absolutely free. You check it out as you would check out any other item from LA County Library, a book or a DVD. You go up to the reference desk and see if there are any available. Like I said, we have about 590 currently available throughout our 86 libraries. And if one's not available, one will be available in a couple of days as they do check out for 2 weeks. And during those 2 weeks, you could use it as often or as many times as you want. Each of the passes will cover the parking for a vehicle that holds up to 9 people. So you could take your entire family out there. You can't take a soccer team, unfortunately, because that's 11, but 9 is definitely a strong number to take out to one of these great parks. And again, it's absolutely free. We just ask you to return it in 2 weeks. If you lose it, don't worry about it. If a bear ate it, don't worry about it. Just let us know so we know to report it that it's been lost. And you could continue checking out another one if you want, or continue using all the services at LA County Library. What was the plant with the darker yellow flowers that smells amazing?
we do have the bush sunflower or pachar uh, in Tongva, and that one, it's popular with every pollinator you can think of. I mean, everybody's taking advantage of it. Butterflies, bees, uh, all the different native bees like metallic sweat bees. You'll get bumblebees, just everything you could think of. All these hoverflies, bee flies, they take advantage of that one. So it's just, and it grows so well and so easily. It's one of the ones that will really fill in a landscape and just shows off with all of its flowers. And the funny thing is, it smells sort of like Easter chocolate, which has a distinct smell. If you've ever noticed, like the milk chocolate you get like around Easter time, shaped like bunnies and stuff, these flowers sort of smell like that chocolate. I don't know why, but they do. Yeah, another name for it is California brittle bush. But bush sunflower works, or coastal sunflower. That's another name for it as well. But yeah, there you go. But I don't know if there was any other flowers that you were curious about, but I mean, we did talk about the black sage. That smells good, but the flowers aren't that color. So hopefully I answered your question, whoever that is.
As you know, a lot of the questions that we're getting here about is actually about home gardens and what is the easiest way to start a home garden? Are there plants that are more conducive to home gardens? Are those ones we should avoid? Just a general overview of how we can get these into our homes.
Yeah, yeah. So all the plants that I introduced today, a lot of the photos are from our home landscape, because I wanted to show that you could find these both in state parks and in a home landscape. They were all very easy to grow. You can get, but here's the thing. I would say if you're going to plant, you want to plant in the fall, ideally before or during the first rains. That's the best time to grow native plants, generally speaking. And you want to get them as immature as possible. If they've been in a pot too long, their roots get bound and they have a harder time establishing. I also encourage people to use seed. You get more bang for your buck. You can buy more seeds. Container plants actually cost money, and the more mature the plant is, the survival rate goes down. So if you can do seed, and like I said, S&S Seed is one of those places. Theodore Payne, a lot of these places sell seed and very young container plants, and those are ideal. But you plant in the fall, and ideally right around the time rain's going to happen. And if the rain is pretty consistent, you might not even have to water, period. But if we didn't anticipate and it's a drier year, there's more hot spells even in the fall and winter time, then you would have to supplement water for the first year or so. And then they establish themselves, you never have to water again. And even for those first few months, if you have to supplement the water, you don't have to water that much. And you don't water the plant itself, you water the soil around the plant. You water the roots. And if it's a hot day, you don't water them. You don't want the plant to have direct sunlight and water casting down on it, because that could actually kill the plant. Because they're used to gloomy skies when they're getting rained on. So that's real important when you're thinking about when to water. But you could even hand water them. Some people arrange for drip systems and that sort of thing. But all the plants that I listed, they're black sage, laurel, sumac, lemonade berry, the bush sunflower, the what else did I talk about? The buckwheat. All of these are key members of the coastal sage scrub plant community, which means they're all very drought tolerant. You can see the side range. You have the larger ones like Toyon and lemonade berry and laurel sumac. Those are going to grow big, but they can be pruned and like hedges. And then you have the smaller ones like sagebrush, black sage. Those are going to be waist high. And so it's just keep in mind the amount of space you have. They will get larger than when you initially plant them. So you have to accommodate for that. But it's pretty easy process as long as you plant the right time of year. They like sandy soils. They don't like standing water. There are many, many other native plants that are adapted for other conditions. So if you have a lot of shade in a part of your home landscape, if you have standing water in a part of your landscape, you would use plants that you would find in a woodland or in a what we call a riparian area. And those plants are more adapted for more water and more shade. And that's all. There's a whole range of other plants. We could do a sequel on that and talk about.
And just really quickly, I know that even within Southern California, we have different ecosystems, right? We have the chaparral, we have the coastal, we have the desert, the alpine. When we're planting in our gardens, should we stick to just one ecosystem or can we kind of mix and match?
So getting back to the beginning of my presentation, if you can stick to communities, that's ideal, because one of the main reasons for planting native plants, besides all the gifts that we receive in terms of medicine and food and all of that, is that you're supporting local wildlife. And so you want to ideally stick to the plants that are most adapted for your watershed in your region, your immediate region, and stick to plant communities. So and the reason being, if you start pulling from different plant communities and putting them all together, they might have different watering regimes, different requirements there. They might have different soil requirements, and they may not necessarily know how to work together to support wildlife. But when you pick from one community, like the chaparral, or if you pick from an oak woodland or a grassland or a coastal sage scrub plant community, there's plenty to choose from there, and they're all going to be adapted for the same conditions and work together to support local pollinators and local birds and reptiles and mammals and all of that. So that's ideally, if you're trying to support these other species, you want to pick like plants that are associated with each other.
I'm going to drop one final
Yeah.
link on for calscape.org, which is a fantastic website that also kind of helps you plan out what what best fits your where you currently live. So it's a fantastic site to go. You go and you kind of circle where you live, and it tells you what's there, so you know what to plant. And so with that, we are about 5 minutes past the top of our hour and past our allotted time. So I want to respect everybody's time and thank everybody for joining us this afternoon for this incredible program. Remember to go to lacountylibrary.org/virtual-programs for all of our upcoming virtual programs. Joel will be in person at
Lennox.
Lennox Library and San Fernando Library in the next couple of weeks. So if you want to come out and say hi to Joel, he'll be there. And in the next few days, you'll receive an email from me with a link to the recording, some of the resources we talk about, and I'll include Joel's information there as well if you want to reach out to him about heading out on a hike with him, or if you have questions about some of our California native plants. And so with that, Joel, I'll give you the last word.
I just want to thank everybody for joining our presentation today. And the presentation is coming up in person. I will be bringing plant specimens with me, so you get to interact firsthand with the plants, so you could smell them. You could even taste them at your own risk. So look forward to that. I hope to see you at some of our upcoming presentations. And yeah, just thank you. Yamohene, I'm leaving. That's Yamohene is leaving in Tongva language.
Thank you so much, everybody, and we'll see you next time. Thank you.